Guys, welcome back. Happy Monday. So let's get started, right? On Friday, I posted a chart saying that we were on resistance, right? But guess what? We've actually managed to gap over that resistance level on Monday. So what we have to look out for is this, is this gap gonna hold? Like a retest of this, right? And a move higher is what the bulls ideally need. Something else to note is we are at supply, right? So any move today, right, you got to be careful till we get over 39.40, 39.50. The bulls are not safe. I would expect a retest, right? You can see the market is kind of overbought, right? A retest of this breakout before a move higher is the most solid move to reset the, you know, oversold RSIs and just, when the market is hot, a retest, likely cools down demand and supply. So it's healthy that way. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm looking to see if we retest these levels, right? Right now you can see we're against the 2 fib. And again, if we don't retest today, I am still looking at 3950 and then potentially a retest rate when Netflix earnings comes out, and then we can go higher till like the rest of the Thanks report. So anyway, bigger picture, right? I'm really not concerned on what it does on the smaller time frames. For me personally, we have broken out, right? Watching to see if the retest sells. Like there's two situations here, right? It's either gonna come retest a little bit and go higher, right? Or it's gonna completely fail this, right? In which case it's gonna come back down to the downside. So those are kind of the two situations I am watching out for, right? So with that being said, obviously this is the bear version of the market. We know, again, we pretty much ping pong, right? Last week we were here and then we came to revisit demand, and again we're back to supply, right? So this week we're gonna have to see, are we gonna break out of supply and move to retest the previous range here at 4150, 4140. So it's kind of the new demand and supply ranges for the market. All right, with that being said, let's look at the bear version too. Again, this is kind of the channel we broke down off demand. We came back into it. So if bears want to strike, right, this can be an ABC move, again, to retest the lower demand area. So if bears want to strike, they have one chance, and right, and it's now. Like if they cannot break us, right, this is where bears ideally need to break us down below 3856, right? If we break below 3856, then you can see again this triangle structure would be broken and we come back lower. So till it breaks below 3856, and this retest would be about, yeah, you can see like about 3860. So that would kind of align, right? Unless the bears break us back below, or we break back into this trend line, we're not bearish. So that's just the overview of the market, right? Let me briefly go over some of the FANG stocks, right? Just to get a bigger picture view of the market. Apple is the only one that has broken out of this channel, and so far it has been progressively higher, steadily higher, right? And this was previous supply here. You can see Apple is barely hovering over it, right? So Apple is going to do one of two things. It's either going to, consolidate here, make this into new support before it moves higher, right? Or it's going to fail the supply zone and, come back to retest this lower area of demand before it moves higher. So that's something else to watch out for on Apple, right? It is hovering around supply. Given that it has moved more than the rest of the FANGs, Apple could very well just consolidate in the zone, right? Try to gather energy up for the next move. But bigger picture wise, healthy, broke out, so far is making healthy moves up steadily. Microsoft, on the other hand, I have this on this week's watch list, actually. If you look at Microsoft, right, you can see that unlike Apple, last week it failed, right? We showed the triangle. What ended up happening was it failed the breakout. It came to retest demand and it's popped up again. So now again, you can see Microsoft again is against that supply, right? Something to note, both Apple and Microsoft are against supply. So it's very likely the market could reject and come lower, but so this is what you're gonna have to watch out for. I have two versions for Microsoft, right? If we break out of supply, right, Microsoft obviously is going to make a giant move to previous supply at 270, 273. So it's kind of what I have, right? If it can stay over 261, then I have Microsoft, trying to retest previous area of supply, I'd say around 269, then 273 are the two versions I am looking for at Microsoft, right? If, however, right, if it cannot hold this gap up, right, and cannot break out of this structure, then again, it's going to fail, right? You saw the last time Microsoft tried to stay over and failed, it dumped 264 to 246, so about 18 points, right? So you can expect the same kind of movement to the downside to 242. So that's where it is, right? Below 256, you will see 242. About 261, you can see 269 and 272, 273. So those are the bull and bear versions from Microsoft that I have for this week's watch list. Let's look at Google, right? Google, again, same structure, right? It's gone. What happened to my lines? All right, no idea what happened to my lines, but I can draw it again. So same structure for Google, and you can see it's kind of sideways, right? Which is kind of interesting that most stocks are kind of held the same kind of sideways. So what I would look for on Google is, you can see that this is the upper channel, this is the downward channel, right? Which means this, as long as you can see it bounced up 0.236 fib level, as long as this level holds, right? I'd say the most important line for Google to break is obviously, oh, it's split. Okay, I forgot today's when Google splits. All right. I mean, it changes, it's whatever. But yeah, obviously this line at 120 is the upper boundary, right? And this line at 108 is the lower boundary, right? Obviously, I don't have it on this week's watch list, but bigger picture, what I expect for Google is that, right, this entire thing is, this is how I draw it. This is my 1, 2, this is my 3, this is my 4, and this is my truncated 5, right? And I'm looking for, so I would ideally, right, this line at 120, I would want it to break 120, right? And only then I would play, the breakout to the upside. Otherwise, I would want it to break below 108, and then, this structure is broken and it will likely make a new low. Till then, it's kind of sideways, but if I had to take a stab, right, I think it will go retest the supply zone at 122 first, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Google. But yeah, bigger picture, we know it's still sideways. It's not broken out, right, compared to Apple and Microsoft. Let's look at Tesla. I have Tesla again on this week's watch list, right? The reason for that, you can see we're very, very tight, and we did gap up over resistance, right? Same as Microsoft, we're right above it or hovering near it. So either this is going to hold and we're going to retest like 760 and it has a gap at 840, right? If I go to the daily chart, you can see that Tesla has a gap at 840 that it needs to fill, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. As long as this level holds above, I think Tesla will retest 840, right? If it fails to hold above, right? If it fails, like the whole market is at supply, and if it cannot break over supply, then we will, again, below, I'd say this gap at 720, we will come retest this zone at 622. So this is what I have for Tesla personally, like below 720, we will see this bottom of the channel, 684, right? Above 740, we can see 760 and 840. So those are kind of the bull and bear versions I have on Tesla, right? I'm kind of going backwards this week, but yeah, I just wanted to go over some of the thing. Let's look at Meta, right? So Meta, again, same as Google, had a sideways structure, and you can see it again went to demand and it's starting to bounce off of it. So I feel like what Meta is going to do, right? Again, this is against supply, so it could retest this area before it pops off. So I think Meta is lagging more than most of the other FANG stocks, right? So ideally, you would want Meta to break over 172, in which case it should have an easy run to like 190, 200, right? If Meta breaks over 172, bigger picture, you can see the structure, right? Bottom trend line is holding, top trend line is holding, just been sideways, right? It's a matter of when it's going to break, either up or down, and obviously on the bottom end, 155 was strong demand, and if it breaks below that demand, it will sell off. So this is what I have for Meta, bigger picture, structure as well. All right, let's go through some of the other stocks I have for this week's watch list. So before I go to coin, let's look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin tried to break out once, right? It failed, it came back in. So what I had as a wave 3 was actually still in a wave 2. That's kind of where I made a mistake last week, is I forgot wave 2's take out a while to play. And I got too excited too soon. So anyway, again, you can see that we have broken out of the structure and the market is kind of trying for a move to the upside, right? So again, you can probably see a small retest, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we retest below 21K before it moved to the upside, right? That's kind of what I am looking for right now to see. Obviously, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a little move up to supply and a wave 2 down. So in the first 2 days, I would be cautious of a little pullback, right? But bigger picture, I'm still looking for a breakout on Bitcoin to the upside. With that being said, I kind of expect the same for coin, right? You can see this yellow line is the downward trending channel. We have gapped up over it. I wouldn't be surprised if we retested 52 at some point before we moved up. Right, I have not changed this coin chart in weeks, regardless of all of this sideways action, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we retest this bottom trend line, but again, I wouldn't, given that it's lagging so much compared to like Mara and like Riot, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if coin took off versus the other two. So over, as long as it holds over 58, you can see 62, 70, if 70 breaks, 90, but obviously this is on a longer time frame. But for now, I'm looking to see if we break over 58, we can see 63, then 71, right? And obviously I'm looking, as long as the bottom trend line holds, this chart as well. So that's why I have coin on this week's watch list. The next one I had is PayPal. Again, the reason for that is if I zoom out, you can see this is the bottom of the falling wedge. This is the top of the falling wedge. You can see we've just been kind of choppy sideways. And so this is kind of what I have for PayPal. I'm looking to see if, again, you can see this was previous supply zone, right? This area here, and PayPal is right over it. So it has two choices. It's either gonna, consolidate a little bit, break out of it, right? Break out of it, retest and pop higher, or it's gonna completely, right? If it breaks below 73, completely fail it and come to retest the downside demand zones again. So that's what I have for PayPal. I think this week it could potentially break out of that zone, right? And I think as long as this if it breaks out and retests 75, then I think it should run to 84 pretty easily. And if it fails 73, it should come retest the bottom zone. So that's why I have PayPal. It has a massive, falling wedge pattern. We'll see if it breaks out. I thought it had pretty good risk reward. And the last one I have is actually Monster Beverage. The reason for that is you can see this level, right, all the way from 28 April 2021, 1 year, right? This level at 98.99 has held a significant resistance. So I'm watching to see if it actually, it's either going to break through or it's going to hit the supply zone and reverse, right? So that's why you can see this was the previous area of demand. It's not broken, right? This is the same as the DDoC setup last week, right? As long as last week, DDoC, we said as long as this bottom trend line held, it will go over. And if it broke, it's going to sell off. So that's what happened to DDoC, right? It broke, it retested, and it popped off lower. So that's kind of what we're seeing for Monster, right? I'm watching to see if we break this at 96.3, right? 96. If we break that, then we should be able to see 94. If 94 breaks, we should see 90. And we know this is heavy supply zone, so that's why I have it as a potential put watch on this week's watch list. So yeah, that's all I have for this week. We went over the things, we went over the market. So yeah, have a good week. Trade safe. Don't gamble too much on earnings.